lean and fit like a marathon runner as opposed to just being hungry? Well, no, she is lean, and she's a female, so she's going to be a little bit less stocky than something like Tingana or Mvula will be, or even her brother Hosana. Hosana is going to be a lot broader than what she's going to be. But if you look at her stomach, so when you look at the sort of the condition of an animal, particularly cats, if you look at around their sort of hip area going down onto the stomach, that area when they are hungry sinks right in and it becomes almost sucked in. It looks like somebody's kind of vacuum packed their stomach, and that's when you know that they are hungry and not lean. Lean would be if it was just kind of straight, and you find that more on a cheetah. A leopard is not a lean animal. A leopard tends to be a little bit more kind of stocky and rounder, so she is definitely hungry. But that's the way that it often is for young animals. So here's just a different angle for all of you to try and see if you can find her in all of that. And that's exactly where she's lying. So as you can see, almost impossible to find her in this. So she's just lying straight behind that grass. That is exactly where she's sitting. So if I go forward, it actually becomes a little bit easier, but you can see not easy at all to spot a leopard at this stage of the year. You've got to have your wits about you and really pay attention as to what's going on. But like I say, let's go and just pop in at the hyena den again. Maybe Ribbon is back, and it'll be interesting to see her behavior. If she picks up the scent of this leopard, she maybe wonders what's been going on. It might be a little interesting to go and have a look. So we're going to just go and pop in there. But yeah, so I don't think, I mean, she's definitely hungry, and you'll find even Hosana will be looking more slender than normal. You know, he'll be slightly sucked in a little bit, and that's because he's not getting the same amount of food. Karula is an incredible hunter. She's able to find food and regularly, and so she's kept these cubs very well fed for their lives, and so they've always looked quite sort of healthy. But like I say, when you see her walking now, you can just see that slight sort of suck in on the tummy. That means that she's hungry as opposed to just being fit and healthy. But I was very surprised to find her here. I would have thought that she would have picked up the scent of all these hyenas and would have just left this area completely. But I suppose being a young leopard, she's curious. She wants to know what all these smells are and why they're all around this little hole. And so she just comes to investigate. But she's going to get herself into trouble if she investigates any other den sites where there's a lot more hyenas around. But it doesn't look like anybody's home now. Want to come around slowly. So it doesn't look like anybody is home. It looks like Ribbon is not back yet. I'm sure she will come back in the next little bit, or at least some stage today. Maybe this afternoon is a good time to come. I hope they haven't left here. That will be a bit sad if they have. I do still see tracks for the little ones, so I'm sure they are still around. I'm sure that we will find them again. But alas, nothing now, so we shall carry on. And like I say, we'll come back to Xongile a little bit later. But for now, we're going to try and see what else we can go and find. I think I'm going to go and trek Treehouse Pan, just in case the naughty little Hosana is sitting there. And while we do that, let's go across to Brent, who's got probably the most spectacular caterpillar that we have out here.
Well, it doesn't matter how many times we find the dice moth larvae, I always get a kick out of it. They are just so exquisite. Yes, you definitely don't have the comprehension of the word exquisite, but there we go. Look at them go. They are just so cool. Now, strangely enough, we see a far more dice moth caterpillars or larvae than we ever see of the adults. Now, the adults are also very, very cool looking. So the reason they got their name dice moth is that their wings look like the perfect round circles of the dice. There we go, look at this. Oh, don't roll over. Shame. Let's put him back on his favorite food. Oops. And he fell down. Matt says, I can never tell the difference between safe and unsafe insects. Well, Matt, it takes some time. There we go. Oh no, you silly thing. Okay, I don't want to disturb him too much. I'll let him crawl back onto the panicum. Now, Matt's wondering the difference between safe and unsafe. Oh, time to get up. Insects, and says I can never tell the difference. It's quite a funny one. It is generally quite difficult, but as a general rule, anything that's got red, orange, brightly coloured, just treat them as unsafe until you can identify them. Oh, we've got quite a funny little tree here. Oh, excuse me. So there's been an elephant, or multiple elephants, I think, that have just had a mud bath and they've walked past here. Now, I'm going to say this was a breeding herd, and that's because of the height of the mud. It only gets up to about, it gets up to there. Oh, could be a big bull, but more than likely the majority of the mud all along on the bark and on the lower areas would tell me that this is a female elephant that's stopped and walked past down this big game trail we're on and deposited a bunch of mud on the poor little Combriton. Senzo accidentally knocked it with his aerial, and I got a mud shower to start my morning. Now, we're in one of the areas where there's no roads, and we're still looking for Karula. Now, of course, if you look at the grass and stuff, it's near impossible to see tracks, and that's why we're on a nice big game trail here, and we're looking very, very carefully. And even on a nice big game trail like this, the sand is still quite hard, so we've got to really concentrate if we want to see tracks here. Oh, we're coming to a T-junction of paths. Oh no, not a T-junction, a parallel path. I know it does join up. Michelle, hi, good morning, is wondering, what animals do I fear most on foot? Michelle, I don't fear any animal. I have a great amount of respect for certain animals, and more respect for certain animals on foot than others. And I would probably say, personally, the animal that holds the most potential danger on foot is a breeding herd of elephants. Elephant bulls, not so much, but a breeding herd of elephants. And you must also remember, Michelle, that it varies depending on where you are in Africa. Now, where I lived in Tanzania, in the southern Selous, the most dangerous animal on foot was the hippo. Now, during the dry season there, the river gets down to, the majority of it is about this deep, and there's only a few deep pools where the hippos are able to stay, and those big dominant bulls really dominate those pools. So anywhere in the bush where there's a thicket, you'll find a hippo sleeping. So we had quite a few close encounters on foot with hippos in southern Tanzania, but here I would say it's breeding herds of elephants, and then secondly buffalo, and then thirdly hippo. Now, hippo is probably the most dangerous to encounter in the bush on foot like that, but because of the area we're in, I've ranked it third because we're less likely to encounter it than buffalo, bulls and elephant. Whereas in southern Tanzania, it was the most likely one to encounter on foot. Ah, there's a little mud wallow up ahead. Wonder if there's still any mud in it. Not much. Oh, but as you walk closer, there's buffalo dung, there's hippo dung here, and as you walk closer and your legs touch these little branches, the mud is wet, so it starts sticking to your legs. There's old elephant dung, some hippo dung, and buffalo dung. So all the big three to encounter on foot, all their dung within 30 centimeters of each other. Okay, so no water left, but some very sticky, smelly mud. And looks like when there was a bit of water, poor kudu was trying to get a drink. Probably from just down there, and you can see how deep down that kudu's legs went into the mud as it tried to get a drink. And you can see how it's sunk in. It's quite old. It's hard at the top here still. So you can see the kudu has come down trying to get a drink of water here, and has got pretty stuck in the mud, but has managed to get out. Probably succeeded in having a drink as well. Now, I'm going to have a think now. I'm trying to think which way to go. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to think, if I was Queen Karula and I didn't want to be found by my cubs, where would I be? And I think this is definitely an area where I would be, because she didn't bring the cubs into this area very often. So we're going to keep checking very, very carefully. And while we do that, let's go back to Ali and the biggest spotted male leopard on Djuma.
I would suggest to Brent that he should probably look through every bush, and that could be a way where he could find Karula. I mean, look how happily Tingana is, and how hard it would be to see him if we weren't standing from the right angle. So there's always hope, and I know Brent and everyone's checking very, very thoroughly to try and find her, and hopefully they will. In the meantime, our territorial male leopard over here doesn't seem to have been too bothered. He did just before a few moments ago, he lifted his head, looked at us, looked around, and then decided that was it, and went back down. We have a strong feeling, though, that he knows this is not his kill, and that there potentially could be another leopard around, so that we think that that's why he hasn't really made a move, and why he is lying down here trying to wait it out, see what happens if there's somebody else that's gonna come. I don't know if it's clear from the shape of the tree over there, but his head is just underneath, tucked in there. There we go. He had some cuts that we could see on top of his nose, but they seem to be older wounds. So I don't know if you guys could help me out here and tell me if maybe when you saw him yesterday he had these older wounds over there, or if he could have gotten them throughout the night. That would make for an interesting twist of events. James, you'd like to know if Tingana is possibly lying in ambush for Mvula? Definitely. There's a very, very strong possibility that that's exactly what he's doing. And he's just waiting there just to... when Mvula comes back, so he can just show him who the dominant male is around. So you see, male leopards are not tolerant of other male leopards around, and the reason for it being because this is his territory, this is his area, and no other male is allowed to come here to steal any of the females he might desire to mate with that his territory holds, or to eat any of the food or the water that he might have around in this area. And this is why some animals become territorial. They just try to prevent others from coming and using any of the resources. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is actually waiting in ambush for Mvula. We have a strong feeling that is what he is doing, because he hasn't approached the kill yet. He definitely doesn't seem too bothered with the hyena, but he's patiently waiting in this area. Still no signs of Mvula around here. Tracks have been going up and down, and I know one of the other vehicles was trying to track Mvula from where the tracks left off this morning, but also they've had no luck so far. So it could be that Mvula is long gone, or it could be that he's actually not too far around here. Maybe he's even seeing us from somewhere and just also playing a game of patience with Tingana. A little bit of an itch over there. Morning Glory, thank you for letting us know that Tingana had semi-fresh wounds when you last saw him, or I think when you saw him last week. So it's a good confirmation that none of these wounds are new. They obviously through the grasses is sometimes a bit difficult to see, but they didn't appear all that fresh to us. So I don't think he's had an encounter with Mvula yet. Would be interesting if it does. But good to know that he is in good shape. And being the dominant male around the area does come with a few cuts and scrapes here and there. nothing too serious. I think for the time being, seeing he is so happily asleep, we're gonna just leave him for a little while, and we're gonna carry on, go around the block one more time, see if perhaps there was anything we missed that could point us in the direction of the other male leopard, and we'll go back to Tristan and see what he's up to while we do that. Let's see.
Well, we're just having a little look around. Unfortunately, Hyena Den was not active. Little Xongile did stand up and she went back to sleep again when I went back past there when I left the Hyena Den. So we'll go to her a little bit later. I don't think she's going to be down the whole morning, but hopefully the cloud will break slightly and a little bit of sun will come out, and that might sort of drive her to start walking around and looking for food and water. But I thought we'll just carry on, and like I say, go and check. Maybe, you never know, Hosana could be somewhere around here. Maybe he's lying a little bit further afield, so I'm going to just check further south and make sure that he's not around. And also just one last sort of sweep for Karula in this section. You never know, she can always pop out in any random place, so it's always worth just checking around. Now of course this weather is not going to be ideal for things like elephants, so it's going to be a little bit quiet on the sort of large herbivore front, so that's why we're focusing a little bit on the cats this morning. So, Brenda, you're wondering if she would have given birth in a prior den site? Well, I don't think so. I think in all likelihood she's not given birth at all, because like I say, when we last saw her 2 weeks ago, there was no sign of any sort of swollen tummy or anything like that, and so I don't think she's off denning somewhere. I know a lot of people want to believe that she's gone and had cubs again, but I would be very, 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 very surprised if she did. The last time I saw Karula, in no way did she look like she was pregnant. And also, like I say, if she was in that process of being pregnant, her sort of attitude towards the cubs would have been very different. She wouldn't have been looking after them nearly as much as she did up until 2-3 weeks ago. She would have been starting to push them out already a month ago as she knew she was pregnant, and so I don't think she's denning, to be honest. She might be off looking for more potential mates, that she could be doing, and that's taking her very far afield. Like I say, I've seen her go all the way towards Londolozi Singita boundary looking for mating rights, so that is a possibility. But oh, hello, Mr. Wildebeest. I think this is a Wildebeest that the Xongile was eyeing out a little bit earlier. There he is. You can see he's a bit sort of covered in dust, and that's because he was rolling on the ground before we found him. And now he's just wandering off ever so slightly. Please don't go behind the tree. There we go. You see now he's digging. What you'll find is he'll probably put his head down to the ground at some point. I'm going to try to go forward so we can see. And he'll then use those glands, those preorbital glands that he has underneath his eye, to then mark his territory. So, there we go. Are you going to mark, or are you just going to lie down in the dust? Well, no, we're going to just lie down in the dust. So he was just prepping a nice area to sit in. I suppose nobody wants a thorn in their belly when they're lying down, so clever Wildebeest for prepping his little sleeping arrangement. I'm sure this is one of the males that came past. I wonder where the other one's gone. There was two of them together when they came past Xongile, but it seems like the other one maybe went up back towards quarantine, and this guy is now sitting here. Well, I think he's also settled down for the day. There must be something in the air this morning. Our buffalo bulls were fast asleep this morning. Xongile went fast asleep, and our Wildebeest as well. I wonder if it's this sort of slow Sunday cloudy weather that means that it's bed weather for the animals this morning, because everybody seems to just lie down when we find them, which is not ideal, but I suppose they deserve their rest. It must have been a long evening for them, particularly if there was a bit of cloud cover. You would have found that these Wildebeest and buffalo and varying other animals would have had to keep a very, very, very keen eye out, because the predators would have been lurking. He's very, very relaxed, this male. It's quite nice. He's letting us get quite close to him. And you can actually see the beautiful coloration on his coat there. So even though they're not the prettiest animal, they almost look as though they've got this kind of velvet coat, especially around the neck area where they've got that sort of darker, thicker fur, and then that sort of finer fur there. And that's where they get the other name that they have, a brindled gnu, because of that striping pattern there. And like I said, it almost looks velvety, doesn't it? Very, very pretty boy. You're looking very good, my boy. He's had a lot of food this summer, and that's probably why he looks the way he does. Now, earlier I was talking to you about those glands underneath the eyes and saying that he might scent mark by putting his head down in that area. So you can see it now quite clearly, sort of midway up the face, just below the eye. There are two swollen pouches. There we go. There it is. And so that's what they will use to mark their territory quite regularly. You'll also find that wildebeest are big scrapers. So as we saw with these hooves, they scrape out and they make these kind of dust bowls, and then they roll around in them. They'll often defecate in them. And it's all just a territorial mark for any other wildebeest that comes past, that they know that they get into a dominant male's area. And you can actually see his main one that is just off to our left here. So I don't know if you can see it, Craig, just here on the left hand side. There's a big sort of open patch of ground that's been scraped. There it is. And there's a little bit of his dung in there as well. So that's what it looks like when they mark their territory. That is a typical wildebeest scraping. Well, this is a very pertinent question. You're asking whether a lone wildebeest is an easy target. It is indeed. So obviously things like leopard, like Xongile, is a little bit too small to hunt this, but a really big male leopard could potentially take one of these male wildebeest down. It would be a very difficult task, but it's possible. I have also seen wild dogs try go after a wildebeest like this, but their biggest threat is lions. Now, if the Nkahuma pride had to come across here and they saw a lone wildebeest like this, they would be licking their chops, because it would be an animal that they would really want to hunt. A wildebeest is a lion's sort of favorite, one of their favorites that they have, and when it's alone like this, there's no other impalas or any other animal around here. It's only it that can pick up any sort of disturbance, so it's a lot harder for it to pick up those lions, and the lions will then try and sort of hunt them. It's also coupled with the fact that a wildebeest is not the cleverest animal. They often do silly things and run straight towards lions, and so they often get themselves into trouble. But yes, he's unfortunately going to be a lot softer target than that entire herd on quarantine. And the entire herd on quarantine's got so many eyes and ears and sort of noses that can pick up any scent or see those predators, whereas he is all on his own. So things can come up from behind him and he doesn't realize it, and he's going to be very susceptible to predation. It's also why he's lying right out in the open like that. He knows that because he is on his own, he can't afford to be crossing through thicker areas. He needs to spend most of his time in these sort of open sections, these open grassland areas, where he's able to then see anything coming. And it would be very difficult for lions to come through this open and get very close to him without him actually noticing. So I suppose he's clever in that regard, but it would be more ideal if he did have some friends with him. Alright, Mr. Wildebeest, have a nice day. I hope you have a safe day. Nobody eats you today. It would be a travesty after you were so kind to sit there and let us admire your good looks. So, and you're wondering if the wildebeest that we see here on Djuma are blue or brindled gnu. That's the exact same animal. So a brindled gnu is a blue wildebeest. You're thinking of a black wildebeest. Now I think a brindled, sometimes they'll even apply it to black wildebeest, but generally, as far as I know, it's applied to a blue wildebeest, and that's, like I say, because of that sort of coat and those sort of stripes that you see with the longer fur and the shorter fur. But yes, we see blue wildebeest here on Djuma. The black wildebeest we get in the other parts of South Africa, so around KZN, so close to where Brent Leo Smith hails from in Pietermaritzburg, and Senzo, funny enough, he's also from that part of the world, and the two of them are together this morning. That's where you'll get a lot of black wildebeest, is in those sort of mountainous areas around KZN, and then into the Free State of South Africa, which is the central part of South Africa, and then the far sort of eastern part. Right, now talking about the two Pietermaritzburg boys, Brent and Senzo, I think let's go across to them and see what they're up to and see what they're busy with and whether or not they've managed to find anything of interest on their walk.
We're from the Barra, the Maritzburg. Yes, both Senzo and I share a hometown, but now we have some dung for you, and we're going to do a bit of a who dung it quiz. Oh. So this is very fresh dung. round boluses. And if I break it up, now you can see what's inside it. So there's some grass, quite a lot of grass, mostly grass in fact. And quite smelly for dung of a grass eater. Normally grass eater's dung isn't too smelly. This is quite smelly. If you look carefully there, it looks like there might be some insects in here as well, but that could have been by accident. Oof, smelly, smelly. So if you think you know who dung it, hashtag Safari Live, who dung it. Herbie's going, that doesn't smell bad. Herbie's turning his nose up at the dung. Now, it is, there we go, that's what I was looking for. So, you'll notice they're quite big chunks. It hasn't been ruminated, so it's not a ruminant, and that's the only clue I'm going to give. So, who dung it? Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, if you think you know who dung it! Now, while we leave the dung to permeate through the air, we're going to keep walking, and we have found some older female leopard tracks, and this is the same area where that drag mark went into Torchwood. So there were tracks going in both directions. So Herbie and I had a long chat, and we've decided that it's possible that whatever was caught and dragged across into Torchwood might have been stolen by hyenas. So those tracks coming into this area might be worth following. Now, of course, they are two days old now, or 3 days. Move. There's in the hole. I can hear it snorting. Now, we're going to move away from that hole quite quickly. Now, that particular hole in the termite mound has nearly ended Xongile before. No, we cannot see the hole, Kirsten, because there is a warthog in it, and I can hear it grunting. And that is why Xongile nearly got ended. He stood in front of that hole, and when warthogs come out of those holes, they come out at full speed, just in case there's something waiting for them outside. So we're not going to go look at the hole. We like our legs non-broken. But so we're going to keep checking through here. And we've followed Karula many times in this area. So the last time Herbie and I went on that long bushwalk looking for Karula tracks, we didn't come this far east. We stopped probably about 200 meters to the west. So we're going to look carefully through here. Now the grass is quite long, it's quite thick. Now the interesting thing is, at the moment my legs are just sticky. So it's the sugar or the starch coming out of the grass at this time of the year. Oh, Senzo is caught on a branch. Let me help him quickly. There we go. So we've got Herbie spotted something, but we've got some answers coming in for the dung quiz. Zebra is incorrect. Oh, Herbie's got a serious look on his face. I wonder what he's found. I think, judging from that look, I'm going to go with... No! I thought you were looking at an elephant, Herbie, but it's a bateleur, is it? Yep. So there's some bateleur in the dead tree. Let's quickly across to Tristan.
And there's Hosana. So we've come down to where I thought maybe we would find Hosana, and he is indeed here, and he's busy stalking some warthogs. So here are the warthogs, and then Hosana, there's the warthogs there, and Hosana is just under the tree, underneath there watching them. So there he is. I think it's Hosana. I'm not 100% sure. It looks like him, but difficult to say. I just came around the corner and spotted the warthogs looking quite distressed, and there's this little leopard head in the thicket there. So this is very cool. I'm very excited because we haven't seen Hosana in a few weeks now. In fact, since Karula went, I don't think Hosana has actually been seen. So very good to see him. And you can actually see a woodland kingfisher in the foreground as well. It almost looks like the warthog is busy smelling the kingfisher. There's the kingfisher, and there's the warthog in the back. Now, the warthogs think that something is up. You can see they're not very sure of what's going on. They want to wallow, but they're not 100% sure of what's happening. You can see they're a little bit nervous, and it's probably mostly because of us. I don't think they've seen that leopard. If they had seen the leopard, they would have been a lot more sort of aggressive towards the leopard. These are both quite big warthogs, so Hosana is going to have a really tough time to bring down a warthog of that size. And like I say, I think it's Hosana. I'm not 100% sure. All I can see is just sort of this ear and half a head. So very difficult to actually get an idea of who this actually is. But wouldn't it be incredible if it's actually Karula? That would be nice, but it looks like him. It just sort of looks like the right size for him. Now, I don't want to go any closer to him because I don't want to ruin his chance if he is hunting these warthogs. And they are moving very close to where he is. So if you see that warthog there, he's starting to go across, and there's actually one in front of it that is really getting quite close now. So there's the other one there. See, it's walking slowly now straight towards where that leopard is sitting. Now, let's see what happens here. Like I say, these warthogs are quite large, so this leopard's going to have to be a bit careful. I have seen leopards get themselves into all kinds of trouble with warthogs, particularly young males. They tend to try and bite off a bit more than they can chew, and they go towards these warthogs and they end up getting chased. And you see, look at how the warthog is scenting. It's got its nose in the air, it's busy sniffing, trying to see what's going on. Absolutely incredible. And it's interesting to watch this leopard. This leopard is just sitting watching. It's not crouching down at all. It's still got its head fairly up. And I think the warthogs have decided it's time to run. But the problem is that they don't want to just run blindly into this long grass, because there could be this leopard anywhere. And they're not 100% sure where this cat actually is. They're sitting watching and sniffing, but I don't think they actually know. And they're nervous to go through this long grass because ultimately they don't want to be caught short. So let's see what happens now. There's a big yawn, so it doesn't look like they're too interested in what's going on. So Sheila, you're saying that if this is Hosana, how far is he from Xongile? Well, straight line distance, I would say about a kilometer. So that would be about right. It's not too far at all. But now that I look at it, I'm not sure that it is him. I think I'm going to just try and reposition ourselves slightly. Oh, sorry, I see the warthogs have just started coming back towards him, so I don't want to go close to him. It's difficult to say. Like I say, I've got such an obscured view of him, that, or whoever this leopard is, that it's tough to say who it is. But it just looks, kind of the bulkiness of the head almost looks like it is him. But we will find out in time. We're just going to give it a chance and see where these warthogs end up. Because the warthogs, like I say, are quite nervous as well. They don't know quite where to go. I think they know something is afoot, and maybe there's a bit of a scent drifting around here, but they've got no idea that there's a leopard sitting as close as it is to them. And so with us being here, they're trying to kind of stay away from where we are in case we're sitting with the leopard, and that's why they keep going sort of into the grass. It looks like they're coming now back towards the wallow and away from this leopard. Just going to try and reposition us ever so slightly, just so that we can maybe get, for the viewers at home, can maybe get a sort of ID on who this cat is. It might be a bit of a better angle for you, Craig. There we go. So, I don't know, anybody, if you can get an ID from that. It looks quite tough from here, but I will say one thing. The nose looks quite dark on this cat. And the ears are all in good condition. So it does look like Hosana to me. I think that's who it is. There we go. Yes, it is him. Now that he's turned, we can see those big ears and that sort of very stout muzzle. So it is Hosana. So yeah, he's not too far from Xongile. In fact, I'm sure Xongile walked this way, because I haven't found her tracks yet. And we're now sort of at the mud wallows of Shabam, which is an area that both Xongile and Hosana often like to lie at. And from here, they tend to head to Treehouse. So what I'm hoping is that Hosana is going to go up towards Treehouse, and Xongile is going to go down towards Treehouse, and the two of them will meet at Treehouse Dam. That would be quite nice. But isn't that camouflage incredible? Absolutely amazing. The warthogs are still hanging around. Like I say, they're still a bit nervous as to what's going on. They're not quite sure where they should be going. And that's 2 young males, these warthogs. So you can see they've got that extra little set of warts on the middle of the face. That's how we know that these are males. You can see them quite clearly. But look, they're very, very alert. And look at how that nose is working. They're trying to pick up the scent. And there is a slight little wind that is sort of drifting around at the moment. And it seems like they know something is not right, and they know this vehicle is here for a reason, but they can't put their finger on it, and that's why they keep coming towards the pan, where it's a little bit sort of more open and they can actually see what's going on. Now, there was a group of warthogs 2 days ago that I'm pretty sure these 2 were a part of that had piglets. Now, I wonder if the piglets aren't somewhere close by and sitting in the other mud wallow just north of us. Could be the case as well. But you can see Hosana is just biding his time, so just sitting in the thicket, waiting, hoping that these warthogs will come closer to him. Where he is now, he's got the advantage because he can stay still, although when he starts scratching and making a noise like that, he's going to give himself away quite quickly. But isn't he beautiful? And I believe a lot of you are very happy to see Hosana, and we've been spoilt. It's been a great weekend. We've had all of the cats that we want to see except for Karula, so hopefully Karula is going to come out. But it's been great to have the old man Mvula and Tingana. Both of them are getting a little bit older these days, and now to have the 2 little royal kids is very, very cool. No, don't go that way, Hosana. That's the wrong way. So he's starting to move southwards a little bit, which is not good. But I don't think he's going to carry on this hunt. You can see he's moving away. He's not really interested. So I think we're going to try and keep up with him so that we can spend the morning with him moving around. It's so good to see him. He's much bigger than when the last time I saw him even. He seems to have gotten taller than what he was. So good to have him around again. Well done, warthogs. Very clever. You didn't go the wrong way. Where have you gone? Oh, there you are. Nature's darling, you're wondering if Hosana would still share a meal with Xongile. Well, yes, I'm sure he would. He's still would be very familiar with her, and I'm sure they've been meeting up a lot more than we think, although he's now off on a run. I don't know what he's chasing, but it seems like he's found something that he wants to chase. Hold on, Craig. Of this cat as he goes down in the grass, he disappears completely. Now I don't want to move because these warthogs will run if I move any further, and at least we can still see his little ears poking above the grass. Now he is quite close. I would say he's probably about 10 meters from them. He needs to maybe get a little bit closer than what he is now, but let's see how this goes. It's very interesting. I wonder if he, for some reason, has tried to separate these young ones from these 2 adults. That would be my guess, is that he's got in between them, and now he's seen these little ones, and he's going to rather hunt these than the adults. Craig, can you see the little one, the warthogs? I just saw them very close to where he is now, moving off a little bit, but absolutely incredible how well camouflaged he is. And the warthogs, for that matter. It's also almost impossible to see them. They're somewhere around there as well. I can't see them anymore. But I didn't hear them running off into the distance. While we kind of watch him waiting there, I'll just get back to that sort of sharing of the food. So I know that the 2 of them have been on a few carcasses down on Little Gowrie together, so if they do come back together, then yes, I think he would share, but reluctantly. He's going to try and eat as much as he can for himself and not share with his sister, but if she is around and he's had his full, I don't think he would mind if she did feed. I don't think the bond between the 2 of them has severed at all. They're probably still looking around for each other, quite a bit. You can see Xongile definitely is going around contact calling, so she does look for him. Whether or not he's interested in her being around him is another story altogether. And I think only now that we've got the two of them on the property, and we'll see if they actually come together, will that sort of tell us what the story is between the two, and whether or not that sort of bond has severed as much as what we think it may have. Like I say, I'm hesitant to move because I don't want the Warthogs to run away. I want to give Hosana the best possible chance that he can, and also not to disturb the Warthogs in any way that they run in panic into him. So we're trying to just keep it as fair as possible. Their camouflage amazes me. If you had to come past here now, you would never know there is a leopard there. It is almost impossible to see him with the naked eye. And you're lucky that we have these cameras that can go so far in and zoom in. But if you look in that picture now, if he doesn't move, you can just see the two little ears poking through the grass there. But if he doesn't move, you would drive past that and wouldn't even know that there's a leopard sitting in the grass there. I wonder how often it happens to us. I wonder how often we drive past and we see these kind of things, or don't see these leopards in the long grass like that. But it seems like he's still watching straight ahead of him. So maybe those warthogs are just around that mound somewhere. Just trying to see with my binoculars if I can spot any of them, but I don't see any warthogs anywhere in front of where Hosana is looking. So, Mind Warp, you say you're wondering if Xongile would hear a squeal of a piglet if Hosana had to catch one. Well, I would imagine she would. That sound carries a long, long way, and even us as people, we would probably be able to hear it from quite a distance. And in fact, where Xongile is, we would definitely be able to hear it. So I don't think it would just be Xongile that would hear it. You would find hyenas would hear that, other leopards potentially could hear that, and come and investigate what's going on. So a warthog is always a risk with a leopard when it kills a warthog, because the warthog makes more noise than any other sort of animal when it's dying, bar probably a buffalo. They tend to make a serious racket. The other thing is that a warthog is quite a tough animal, so it doesn't just die straight away. It's not like an impala that gets by the throat and goes quiet and then gets suffocated quite quickly. Warthogs tend to put up quite a bit of a fight, and they don't stop squealing until they die. So it's a little bit sort of difficult to watch and to be a part of, but it also is difficult for the animal that kills them, because it tends to attract a lot of attention towards where they are. But I see he's now slinking in the grass there. Or is he lay down? Craig, I can't see now. It's disappeared completely from where I am. I'm a little bit lower than where Craig is. There he still is. So you see he's moving forward slowly. You can just see those collarbones. Isn't this amazing? Now, for any of you who have watched Ghosts in the Darkness, it almost looks like a scene out of that movie as this cat slinks through the dry, long grass. Now, I wonder how close he is. The last time I saw the warthogs was just beyond where he is, maybe 5 meters from the bush that's in front of him. And the way that he's walking tends to suggest that those warthogs are very close. He's very careful, very deliberate. He's moving with his feet going slowly. So I would imagine that those warthogs are there somewhere close by. And it's amazing that we can still be able to watch this leopard and see him. From where I am, I can't see a single thing. I can't see a spot, but at least with the camera being slightly higher, I've got a bit of a better vantage point. But isn't this exciting? So he's obviously really getting used to this hunting, and you can just see the difference between him and Xongile is just that size. He's able to wrestle with these large if he does grab them, just because he's slightly stronger and more well built than what she is. She unfortunately is having to target smaller animals, and I think he's also just a lot more confident in what she is. He tends to give it a try, where she seems to be a little bit more timid now that Karula is away. And so you can see the difference between the two of them just in the way that he approaches things. But there he is, just in that thicket, still slowly moving. Now with the leopard, you'll have left. But they all kind of exploded out. I don't know if they actually saw him, because the way that they ran, they kind of just all bombshelled and then they all stopped. So I don't think they actually saw Hosana. Normally when they see a leopard, they don't stop running, they just keep going, and they've all stopped quite close by here. So I wonder if they maybe just caught a scent of him and that caused them to run. It's difficult though, because I can't see either party involved now. I know there was a warthog somewhere in front of me that ended up stopping here, but as Hosana, I have no idea where he is, so I'm going to try and just see if I can reposition myself slightly that we can just keep tabs on Hosana. And while we do that, let's go back to Ali and see what she's gotten up to in the last little bit.
Well, it seems like we've got all the family, well, almost all the family today. We've got Hosana, Xongile, and Tingana all have been spotted, which is great. Now we just need the mother to come around and we'll be fine. Since we last saw you guys, we left Tingana to his own. He's still sleeping, still in the bushes. We think he's definitely trying to ambush Mvula, and that's why he hasn't gotten up to the kill and he's still lying down. And we've just gone around the block trying to see if maybe we could find some more tracks or perhaps another leopard, maybe Mvula, maybe something else. But it seems like everything around here has been quite quiet. We've found a few elephant tracks down the road, but nothing too conspicuous, and not the elephants itself. I think maybe they're all over there just keeping Brent company. Or at least they seem to be doing that earlier on. Alright, let's see what there is around here. Beautiful. Infinity, you would like to know if the animals are tagged in the park. The answer is no, otherwise we would be able to find them very easily, because then all we could do is just, color them all and then find out and then check on a GPS system. So we do this old school. You look for the tracks and then you look for the animal, or when you get really lucky, then you bump into them on the road. But no, the animals per se are not tagged. What we do on occasion, or especially with the lions and the leopards, is we have IDs for them. So we have almost like a virtual tag, I want to say, where we just manage to find out who's who and their lineage or where they belong to. But if you're referring as a tag that will allow us to know where they are at every moment, no. The only time you will see one of those animals, and you tend to see them sometimes in the Kruger Park, is when there's some research that's being done. I know Xongile had a color for a while, and that was just because of research. We didn't have access to his position on a daily basis and that kind of stuff. And a lot of the times, the researchers just want to know where the animals go off to, what areas they will occupy, if they're leaving their mothers, how far will they go from them. And both with lions and leopards, they tend to do this. And you'll find often that they'll tag other animals, non-predators like the elephants and the buffalo and the rhino, just to also try and keep tabs on them and see who's who and what's happening and where they're going. But other than that, this virtual tag that we put to them, because we take photos and manage to ID them, we've got no other way of knowing where they've gone to. I think let's just carry. Can I go on that road? I can. I can. Just making sure that I'm not going to drive all of us somewhere we're not supposed to go. I haven't checked that road, so it'll be good to see if maybe there's something a bit unexpected. We will eventually try to make our way back to Tingana, see if he's changed positions, but we're giving him a bit of privacy and letting the other vehicles just come around and have a look, see if maybe he'll decide that he can take his chance. Alrighty, let's go on the road less traveled. Maybe we'll find something we haven't found before. Isn't that beautiful? All that stretch of road, and that's just a game reserve, pretty much up to that dark area over there. Just, I would say, midway to the horizon. Okie dokie. Let's see. Lauren, you'd like to know what's the most dangerous encounter that I've had? I would probably say we were once tracking lions, the southern part. I don't know if you've heard from them. They occupy an area in the southern region of the Sabi Sand. And there's a particular female in that pride called Mandleve, or floppy ear. And I think she's my ultimate favorite leopard, just because lion, because she's so clever. But she was also quite a outcrop. Maybe I just have a knack for, grumpy girls. She was always very feisty, very wild. So we were tracking them and we hadn't realized that they were actually on a kill. And we got a bit too close unknowingly, because we were two teams tracking and we kind of converged at the point where the lions had the kill. And then she was not too happy with some of the other guys she had seen. Luckily, she didn't manage to spot me and my tracker. She was unaware that we were there, but we saw how she was charging the other guys. So it was probably not the best thing to witness, because you get very, very stressed, because I don't want anything to happen to it. But other than that, it was all fine. It wasn't anything more serious than that, to be honest. I think I've been lucky. Some unfortunate. Well, the more you do the animals, you have a bit of a try to keep things as safe as possible and try to minimize. Hosana. Thanks. Okay.
Welcome back. Sorry about that. We do have some technical problems from time to time in the middle of the bush. Now, at the moment I'm on Central Road. Now, when Karula hunts, she often goes through these big blocks and then just crosses the road. But it's a really nice road to see tracks. It's nice soft sand, so that's why we're walking down the road here. We found some old tracks in that block between Leadwood and Mumba, but I'm guessing those tracks were 3-4 days old. And it's very difficult to say whether they're Karula or Tandi. Now, Herbie and I were having a discussion a bit earlier, and he says, but Tandi never comes as far. I said, but if Karula hasn't been here in nearly a month, she hasn't scent marked, she hasn't vocalized, Tandi will start sneaking or pushing and trying to claim territory for herself. So that's those drag marks that went across into Torchwood. I'm still not convinced they were Karula. I mean, I looked at the tracks, and Karula's tracks are tracks I know very well. It's always difficult when the animal's dragging something. I think it might have been Tandi. I hope it wasn't. I hope it was Karula. But logic dictates that it's probably Tandi, and she's probably made an excursion or a foray into what is a core part of Karula's territory, because there's been no chemical communication via scent mark or no audio communication of territorial or of territory by Karula. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But we are gonna have to start. Oh dear. I don't know what's my radio's got so quiet. Let me just give it a second. But Winter Prism, well done. Maybe it's a bit loose. Volume on full. Let's try that. Well done to Winter Prism. The Who Dung It quiz was indeed Warthog. So if you look carefully, there were little roots and stuff in there, and you're not going to find that in zebra dung. So that is Warthog. Other than that, they look very, very similar. Aha. Now, before we keep chatting about leopards, let's get your brains going again with another Who Dung It. So here we go. Quite big. Look at the size of my hand. And if we break it up, oh, there we go. You can see almost 100% grass, but not incredibly well digested. So, and some termites that are feeding. Let me just turn it back over so the termites don't get burnt by the sun. There we go. So a lot of the termites, the reason they're white is that they don't see the sun, they don't have any melanin. So the harvested termites that come out during the day are dark brown, so they're able to deal with sunshine. But there we go. Who Dung It? Hashtag Safari Live. If you know the answer to who dung this one. We've done the warthog. Now we've got something a bit bigger than a warthog, but still a herbivore. Hashtag Safari Live if you know who done it. Okay, carrying on chatting about leopard movements and territorial movements. So, I mean, if Karula hasn't been, and she might have been here, we just don't know, we haven't seen tracks. She might have done one of those sneaks through the blocks, which she's famous for. That's what I'm hoping. But the one thing we might actually have to start considering, the closer we get to a month without Karula, is that she might possibly, unfortunately, which is incredibly sad, she might have expired. And the one thing, when leopards die, it's normally, I think, quite a good thing that we don't find the carcasses, and we can think happy thoughts. But generally with wild animals, the deaths can be very violent and at the hands of another predator. What you found, Herb? Herbie's found something. I'm hoping. Oh no, Herbie's fishing for his breakfast. Are you fishing for breakfast, Herb? Now, let's see if Herbie will eat his breakfast for you. After you, Herb. Herbie wants to get bitten by his breakfast. Herbie is fishing for soldier termites. That's what he was doing. And let's see how we're going. Did we catch any? Oh, yes, we did. Herbie is an expert termite fisherman. Now, these are all soldiers, and you can see those massive teeth and how they've gripped onto the grass. And you don't want to get those near your finger, they will draw blood. Now, you can eat them. They don't taste particularly nice, but they are very, very high in protein. And strange enough, exactly what Herbie's just done with this piece of panicum to fish termites. I don't want to put them back. I don't want to remove them from their home. And they can. There we go. There we go, guys. So exactly what Herbie's done here is actually done by one of our closest relatives, the chimpanzee. Now, oh, and there's an assassin bug, but we'll get to that just now. One of the most fascinating things is chimpanzees will fish for termites exactly like this. Now, these are the chimpanzees that live in the sort of savanna regions on the edge of the forested area, and they will fish for termites. Now, another chimpanzee fishing thing is for sweat bees. So those tiny little bees that tend to fly around our face, there's a lot of different species of them, and in the rainforest they're all around, and the chimps will actually follow an individual bee back to its nest and then take a piece of grass or even clean a small branch of a tree, and they manage to feed it. It needs to be flexible, and they feed it because those sweat bee nests are generally in trees, and they'll feed it in very slowly and then dip it into the honey and then sit there, and you've never seen a happier face than a chimpanzee who's got honey. They'll put their lips out and they sort of make these. It's very, very funny to watch. Now, I've also seen them do it for traditional honeybees, but when they do that, because obviously the little stingless bees are far easier because they don't bite you, they just swarm you. But I've seen a chimpanzee on a camera trap, because we put a camera trap on a bee nest, and he was fishing for honey at a normal bee nest and doing this, trying to whack all the bees as they stung him. But very cool. So I'll leave that piece of grass there. I don't want to disturb the termites too much. Now, at the moment, they'll be opening and closing these different holes to regulate the temperature down below. And if you always put your hand over it, you can feel the heat. And so they're regulating the temperature. So that's what they're doing at the moment. They're busy building. And I would say they're closing up at the moment as we get closer to winter. And the nights are getting a little bit cooler, and they want to maintain that perfect temperature of around 33 degrees Celsius on the inside. Oh, you can see the soldier, when he vibrates his head like that, he's communicating with the other ones. Now I'm going to show you something very cool. There we go, look at him. And if you want to see a termite's upset, now most of the biggest dangers to termites are, of course, aardvark and aardwolf, and both are mammals, so breathe oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide just like us. So can you still see them, Senza? Or have they disappeared? Right, he might come out now. There he is. There, you see him? Up at the top. Okay. Now when I breathe, when I get close, and I'm just breathe on them. Look at that. See how they immediately react. They immediately really get quite defensive and start communicating, asking for help. Now the reason is they actually pick up on the carbon dioxide in my breath, and that will set them off because they think there's a potential threat coming to try feed off their home or feed off them. Okay, oh, there's a little worker. Look at the worker, busy putting each individual piece of sand into place. Look, isn't that incredible? Closing up a little hole. Now I can tell that's a worker because it doesn't have those massive mandibles. Look, there we go. It's carrying a piece of sand, and it's going to go move it. And this looks like the coal face, or the currently being worked on face. I can see it's wet, so it's a darker color. And it means that's where that one's working. Oh, it's disappeared down a hole now. But Justin's wondering, have I ever eaten any soldier termites? I have, Justin, when I was younger, just because I got told you could do it, and so I did it. Now, so I'm talking about eating funny things. My dad and his friends often chatted about, when they were younger, and they were out camping and they'd run out of food. And if they found a fresh lion kill, they would actually chase the lions off the kill and take some of the meat for themselves. And I think we must have been about 16 or 17. A whole group of us went camping in the Okavango Delta in one of the private concessions. And we decided to test this theory that our parents had talked about so often, about if you run at a lion shouting and waving a stick, the lion will run away. Now, if we'd been listening, which you don't tend to do in your teenage years, you think you're quite the expert in everything, they say, of course you want a fresh kill from that day. You don't want something that's been there for 3 or 4 days unless you really are starving. So we found lions on a buffalo kill, but they probably made the kill an hour before, so they still weren't very fat and heavy. And it was about 7 o'clock in the morning, so it was still quite cool, middle of winter. So normally what one would do if one wants to chase lions off a kill, wait till about 11 or 12 when it's hot, and also wait for the lions to have a good feed before you chase them off. And we didn't. So at about 16, 17 we ran charging at these lions, shouting. Now the thing is, if you start charging a lion, there's no backing out, because as soon as you turn around and go the other way, you become dinner. So basically we started running at these lions, and we shouting and running at these lions, and the other trick we missed is you should only start running from very close. So you sneak up and then give them a big fright. You don't run from 60 meters, which is what we did. And about 6 of us. And I could distinctly remember hearing the pitch of our voice change when we'd run for about we'd run for about half the distance, so about 30 meters already, and the lions still weren't moving. They'd just gone flat. But now we know we can't stop, because if you stop, you're guaranteed to be in trouble. So, and eventually they only ran away when we got to about 15 meters from the carcass. We cut that piece of meat very quickly off the carcass and tried not to run back to the car. Of course, you don't run, so we're walking like this. Of course, you learn as you get older, and at least we had buffalo backstraps for lunch that day. And you know what? There's a reason you hang meat, and that's so it can be tenderized. So that buffalo backstrap was probably one of the toughest meals I've ever had. But we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep checking all the likely spots for our beloved missing queen. While we do that, Ali has got a brick buck.
Well, while Brent goes and looks for the queen, we were lucky enough to find this beautiful tiny little antelope that you guys can see over here. Now, they're normally quite nervous with vehicles, and they tend to run away the minute they see us, but we seem to have found a very, very, very chilled one. This species of antelope, it is probably the smallest one we get around this particular area where we're in, and it's called a Steenbok. Ah, it's beautiful. Obviously, as you guys can see the little horns, this is a male. And that's just as big as they get. Oh, look at that beautiful face. I am so excited. He's actually standing still. I think this is the best view I've ever had of one because they just tend to run. Being such small things, they fleeing or flee. It's probably the way that they go. But the reason why they're called Steenbok is their name actually comes from the Afrikaans word, well, combination of two words, steen, which means red. And you can see he's got a bit of a reddish color, not around his ear, but all of his body is all that almost brick color. And buck because, well, he's a tiny bug. Seems to just be looking at us quite intently. Alright, while we stalk this particular little one over here, see what he gets up to, let's see what Xongile is up to.
So Xongile has just popped out next to us here. We were coming past just to see what she's up to, and she's popped out next to us chasing little dwarf mongoose. So both the little royal pair are in the process of chasing. Now, Hosana unfortunately chased his warthogs into little Gari, so I couldn't follow him any further. But the good news is that he was following track for track. Xongile was walking right on top of her tracks, so I think he was actually following her and then bumped into the warthogs and ended up getting a bit distracted. But that's really good news for this afternoon, because I think once he's finished with his warthogs, if he doesn't catch them, he's going to carry on coming up and trying to follow Xongile's tracks, and I wouldn't be surprised that the two of them end up being a treehouse dam together this afternoon, which would be really, really spectacular and would be a perfect setup for Karula to come strolling in the late afternoon light and to come and save us all from the sort of depths of our despair in the sort of thoughts of her maybe being dead. So that's what I'm going to hope for this afternoon, and it will be a great way to finish the weekend if that did happen. But little Xongile still hasn't moved too far, and like I say, she saw some dwarf mongoose running across the road, so she got very interested in it, and you can see she's kind of in that pose where she was ready to start chasing, but she was a little bit slow on the uptake, and unfortunately I think they've all disappeared now before she could get anywhere near them. And she's still listening and still watching. What you doing, little cat? Shame. It's also getting hot now. She's sitting right in the sun. We've got two big marula trees above us, and there's lots of shade, but she's managed to find the only sun spot on that whole entire section of road. You can see it's shady on either side of where she's sitting, so she needs to move a little bit if the sun's going to start affecting it, because it actually feels very warm now that the sun is out, so I'm sure she's going to get hot if she stays there. And hopefully for her, she's going to find herself a nice place just to relax for the day, and maybe even a little dwarf mongoose as a meal. I know that Hosana has caught one before, so maybe Xongile will have learned from him and be able to do it. But you can see the way that she stalks in comparison to him is far more timid. She tends to sit and watch and wait and kind of spend a long time processing what's going on, whereas Hosana is very active in his hunt. In those warthogs, he was right behind them the whole time, and when you guys left us, those warthogs had just run a little bit. We then managed to come round and find him again, and as we came round, he then shot off after them, and they all went running through the bush. There we go. Oh, this dwarf mongoose saw her. I don't know if you heard the dwarf mongoose shouting, so they've seen her and have run away, so she's a little bit too slow, unfortunately. You can hear them now alarm calling, so they're now telling each other that there's a predator, be careful. Sorry, little Xongile, you were a bit slow there, my girl. Maybe it was the sun making her feel a bit dopey that got her. But she should have a day of doing this. If she's going to hang around here, these dwarf mongoose are going to be around a lot, and so she's probably going to end up chasing them most of the day. But I'm hoping she heads towards Treehouse rather than goes and joins with Hosana. That will be better. Well, Jane, you're wondering if her behavior is typical of a leopardess that's about to disperse. Well, I think it's been forced behavior, so yes, it is. I mean, she's doing exactly what any young leopard would do, is trying to take any advantage to hunt of any animal that comes past. So she's intrigued in everything. So something like a dwarf mongoose, though, she knows is manageable. She can bring that down. So she's trying to just survive, and it's more a survival instinct than a dispersal method. The other reason for it is that because Karula hasn't been around, and we don't know, maybe Karula has been with them in random times, but nobody's seen any tracks for them. So if Karula's not around, she's almost being forced to disperse, and her sort of tactics are exactly what you would expect. She's moving to where she knows she's comfortable, so she's coming into her natal territory. There's no Karula around at the moment to chase her out, but she's coming to where she knows she can be safe, because this is where she's grown up all her life. Her mom has forged this territory, and her sort of scent is still lingering in places, and so other big leopard females like Tundi or Shadow on the boundaries and peripheries know that this is Karula's territory, and they're not going to come in anytime soon. So if her mom has gone and indeed disappeared, then she is showing exactly what a dispersal young leopard would do, or a cub would do. It would come into its natal territory where it knows it's comfortable, and then try and eke out an existence by hunting anything that it can. And they will survive on small little animals like these dwarf mongoose, on insects like the termites that Brent was showing you earlier, and they'll just try and kind of eke out an existence until they get bigger and stronger. Hosana is in a little bit of a different category because he's slightly bulkier than what she is, so he can wrestle with larger prey items, and he seems to be a lot more bold in his actions. And the reason for that is because as a young male, he's kind of not really gotten the grasp of the fact that at some point a big male is going to come kick him out. He's quite used to Tingana coming along and not being too concerned with him. But now that he separates from his mom, when Tingana comes across him, he's going to now see him as a threat rather than as his offspring. And it's going to be very different for Hosana going forward. But for now, he's very confident in that this is an area that his mom is in, and he's bigger and stronger, and he's had some success chasing certain prey items, and so now he's quite bold in the way he hunts. Now look at Xongile trying to slink off because she's being shouted at, so she knows instinctively it's time to go and find somewhere to hide so that they stop shouting at her. There we go. So just like her brother was slinking when he was chasing the warthogs, so she's doing the same thing. And I think she's going to try and find herself some shade, and she's going to lie down. And I think that's going to be Xongile for the morning. I don't think we're going to stay with her much longer. I think we're going to give her a chance to rest and maybe chase her dwarf mongoose around. And while we do that and carry on our way this morning, let's go back to Ali, who I believe has got a spotted cat of her own.
Well, it seems like our patience game finally paid off. Look who is up on a tree, enjoying a better view and a bit of a breeze. Our beautiful boy Tingana has just gone up the tree. He seems to be resting. I don't really think that he has actually fed on any of the kill, but he seems to be quite content up all the way up there. Could be that he decided he got tired of waiting to ambush Mbula. Mbula's nowhere to be found. And while there's a free meal up there, why not enjoy it? Doesn't seem like his belly's too full from where we're standing. But it is, look at him just hugging that tree. It is amazing sometimes the positions that leopards manage to get themselves into just to be able to sleep on top of a marula. I don't even know how he's comfortable, because he seems to be almost falling on the one side, just, you know, balancing the last bit on that branch all the way there. Look at those paws over there, the one hanging typical leopard fashion. This is the way every leopard should actually be sleeping on a Sunday. Look at that beautiful color. Lauren, you would like to know if Mbula is too old to be territorial. Let me see how I can put this. They won't become too old to be territorial. That is something that is in their nature. They will always want to have a territory of their own, the resources and everything else. But sometimes what would happen is as they get older, then they are not successful in managing to prevent other younger, stronger males from coming into their territory. So it would seem at the moment, from what I've been hearing around from the different guides and from what I've been observing in the past few months, that Mbula doesn't have a set territory. He's just been in the periphery of, or the outskirts of different males' territory. So I've seen him around the areas where the Anderson male leopard is normally found, some areas where quarantine was, and now where Tingana is. So I think he's just enjoying the gaps while these males are away. He could, you never know, he could potentially come back if there's a sudden gap, or one of our male leopards or more dominant younger male leopards were to disappear. He would take advantage of it. But for the time being, I think he's just not quite going to do that. I mean, there are no signs of him. We have a younger male leopard around, so it's a good possibility that he's just decided to go somewhere else and avoid this fight to live another day. When you put it like this guy's belly does seem quite full. Look at that stomach over there. So if he hasn't been eating at this particular kill, he's definitely been eating something else. I think he is actually having a bit of trouble balancing on that stomach of his. If you see him, he's rolling constantly between the one side and the other because he doesn't want to tip over. Ah, hello. Look at those very, very sharp canines still around. I don't know if you guys remember from yesterday, we could see that Mbula's bottom right canine was actually in half, so another sign that he's an older male. And we've got Tingana here, who's just enjoying a bit of a Sunday snooze. I think this is the proper bliss for a leopard. I mean, look at him. He's got food on the one branch, he's sitting on another one, there's a nice breeze, he doesn't really have to go anywhere. Probably something along the lines of the real estate lottery for this man. Well, hello. Also a good way to tell the difference between an older male and a younger male is if we look at the ears. I don't know if you guys remember yesterday, Mbula's ears were quite tattered. They had a lot more holes than the ones that Tingana does. And this is obviously because they walk in an environment where there are a lot of thorns, a lot of branches that might damage the ears every now and again, but also a lot of fighting. So fighting with other males, trying to bring down the prey. These are all things that will give them the scars that they end up showing and wearing very, very proudly as a sign of power, as a sign of strength, and as a sign of being survivors. Liam, what do you think? I think he's got the best spot. Okay, while this beautiful male carries on chilling over here, let's just go to Brent and see what he's up to.
Well, welcome back. Now, it has been a bit of a dung it or who dung it quiz. Now, I'm not going to ask you who dung this one, but it is quite an amusing one. Well, I think it's quite amusing if we come have a look here. So, I'm sitting under a dead tree, and there's a bird dropping. It's a very big bird dropping. I actually know what bird it is because I saw it from a distance. It was a batelier. But it's just incredible to me that how it's defecated from quite a height above us. And so, as this dung has hit the tree, it's literally caused a crater in the road where it has fallen. So very fresh batelier dung. That's quite impressive. Now, of course, we had a lot of answers to our other quiz, and we had giraffe, kudu, I think was it DD? So I don't know what's wrong with my radio. It's suddenly just getting softer and softer. I'll try to fiddle with it. DB. DB? I think it was DB, yes. BB, DB. Well, I apologize. I don't know why my earpiece is so soft, but yes, you were spot on. It was a baby hippopotamus. So that's all right. You could see the grass wasn't ground up. So if it had been giraffe or kudu or wildebeest, the stuff inside, let me just see, maybe I can find a piece of dung around here somewhere from a ruminant. Now, the ruminant's dung is so fine, it's almost like a powder when you break it up, where there's the non-ruminants. So, of course, ruminants, Tristan was talking about ruminants at the beginning of Drive, particularly buffalo, how they draw up that bolus and they keep feeding, and they've got 4 stomachs in different chambers, and they are able to re-chew the cud, as it's called. Your non-ruminants, hippo, warthog, zebra, rhino, elephant, you will find a lot bigger pieces of vegetable matter inside their dung, so it's not going to be nearly as fine or powder-like when you break it up. So that's one of the easiest ways to tell the difference between a ruminant's dung and a non-ruminant's dung. Now, we've unfortunately had no success in our search for the queen, But I'm still positive. I am starting to get worried, but I think she is a wily cat. And I just heard, we're not sure who or what or why, Herbie was listening to the Eastern radio channel. Apparently Tandi was fighting with another female south of Chitwa. So I'll try to find out some more information about that before the sunset safari, and who knows. I think it's highly unlikely that it's Karula in that area. It seems well out of territory. So even if she was moving territory to give Xongile a good start, she would still be in some of her territory. She wouldn't cross through Tandi's territory down to the Mala Mala boundary. Well, it's unlikely, because remember, if you say anything for definite, you can always be proven wrong. The bush is what was the word I'm looking for? The bush is the bush didn't read the textbook, so it can do whatever it wants. So it could have been Karula fighting with Tandi. I think it's unlikely. I think it's possibly not even her daughter. It possibly could be another leopard we don't know coming in from the south. But we're going to start making our way back towards our vehicle, and while we do that, let's go see how Mr. Tingana is doing with Abby.
Well, somebody's decided to play the balancing act on all the marula branches. So he's just woken up. I think he might either be contemplating of finding another more shady spot away from the sun that would seem to be hitting them right in his face, or he might even try and attempt and walk a bit just closer to the kill, just on the other side of the tree. Now, if you see that big flap of skin underneath his right there, underneath his jaw, that is called the dewlap, and it's a good indicator that this male is a territorial male leopard. Normally, as they get older, then they develop this much thicker neck. There's this very, very big flap of skin underneath, and it's a good way of just knowing that he is the one in charge. Although I think he's not quite sure of what's going to happen next. Let's see. Katoas, you... Okay, well, I think that was a bit of scratching, actually. Yes, I have seen leopards sleeping, and then they've fallen off trees. It is actually one of the funniest things to see, because they can sometimes even be snoring, and then they just let down their guard for just that 1 second, like we were seeing Tingana just earlier. The stomach that is somewhat full flops a little bit to the side, and then they lose their balance because there's much more weight on one side than the other. So yes, they can definitely fall. But bear no mistake, just as soon as they fall, then they're very, very quick to get up back on their feet and probably go back up the tree. But just like our cats, they have a good ability of landing on their feet, even if they have to turn in mid-air, like a matrix type of thing, and then just make sure they fall the right way. Yeah, the feet just moving. It's almost like he's, going along to some song, but it's just really the movement that's produced by the rest of his body panting. Now, it is getting a bit hot here, and animals, just like us humans, they have to regulate their body temperature. And because they don't sweat like what we do, I know, just imagine when you go for a run or you play outside and everything else, and your body starts producing water as a way to try and cool itself down. Well, the animals here, they don't sweat like what we do, but they use their mouth just to try and cool everything down. So the quicker they breathe, it's a way of knowing just how hot they are. So I think he is somewhat hot. I think the sun might just be getting to him just on the top there at his bottom area. And you can hear him now panting as well. If you can hear that. He's gone back to sleep, it would seem. Well, there's some funny behavior that we're watching here. Definitely there's a bit more to the story than what we can find out. But I'm sure later on he knows the kill is here, and probably when it's a bit less hot for him, he might just go around and start feeding on it. I think for now he's just sorted out the marula puzzle and managed to find himself in a position where all his legs are actually doing most of the work and he can just lie in there happily. Look at all those rosettes. From here, I know you guys were discussing earlier just how soft a leopard's coat can be. So, well, this one, it's... Having done some leopard research in the past and being lucky enough to be close to darted leopards, I can tell you it's quite a rough skin. But this one is looking in particularly great condition. You can tell that he is by no means under any stress, and he's just seems to be thriving. Very, very beautiful. Hey, oh boy. Now, all those spots that VM is busy pointing out, those are called rosettes, and those are, let's call them the spots that we use to identify leopards. So they grow they come up in this pattern where they will be normally in a circular way and just with a lighter point in them. And all of them are different, just like fingerprints. So if we were to look at all of these ones here, and then we were to look at the ones on the same side of the body of Mvula, it would be completely different. And we could tell pretty much straight away which one was which if we knew their pattern by heart. A lot of the times when people do research, this is what they look at. Shannon, you'd like to know how many spots does a leopard have? That's actually a very good question. I don't know. I would guess that probably somewhere around the hundreds. If we count all of them from the tip of the toes to the tip of the tail, I wouldn't be surprised if they had about maybe 500, maybe more. I don't know if there's actually anyone that's counted the spot of a leopard. I mean, just look at his face right there, all this tiny little spot on the whiskers and everything else. I reckon just on his face we could get to maybe 100 and 150, maybe 200 even. It would be an interesting exercise if we could ever just get a leopard to hold still on both sides. Okay. Seems like this old boy is going to be here, and we're going to thank him for being such a champ this morning and just gracing us with his presence just when we thought that we weren't going to find anybody else. And I just want to say goodbye to everyone. It's been a pleasure having you around here. I'm very happy that we ended up with this beautiful boy up there, and hope to see you on the next safari.
Well, I think all the leopards have been champs this morning. I was just saying to Craig that in terms of our area that we kind of monitor, there was 7 leopards within the space of about, I would say, sort of 5 or 6 kilometers squared, so not very far at all. And this is something that we'll need to be very careful of, all these leopards that are hanging around. This little squirrel that is dashing around our marula tree. We're going to have to be very careful. There are lots of little predators with spots around, so be careful of them. So you might be wondering which 7 leopards I'm referring to, because we have seen 3 this morning. So we have had Xongile, obviously, then we had Tingana, then there was Hosana, so those are the 3 we've seen. Then there was Tandi fighting with this unknown female, which I'm very intrigued to know who that is. So that is now 5. Then there was apparently reports of Tandi's cub, Tumba, somewhere around Chitwa area, so that will be a prospect for this afternoon. And then a Mvula in Buffelshoek. So that is the 7 leopards that are around us currently, which is quite incredible to think that we've got that many in this area at the moment. It really is quite cool. Now hopefully that unknown female will turn out to be Karula. I'm, like I say, anticipating some photos and to be able to try and see if we can find out who exactly this leopard is and whether or not she is indeed around, because that could be the mystery solved. And if she is around, then I would imagine a royal come together this afternoon, which would be really, really spectacular and exactly what we're all hoping for. And like I say, a really nice way to close out the weekend. Now, unfortunately, that is all we have time for this morning. It's been an incredible morning with lots of leopards and Brent with his elephant. So from myself and Craig, goodbye everybody, and we'll see you all on the Sunset Safari this afternoon.